Very often we write down a sentence too early, then another too late. What we have to do is to write it down at the proper time. Otherwise, it's lost. Thomas Bernhard.
You're listening to Writing Roots, brought to you by Aspen House Publishing.
Welcome to Writing Roots. I'm Leigh Hull.
And I'm Leigh Esses.
Happy NaNoWriMo!
Woo woo!
We are the second day into November. I hope you've started your process to achieving your NaNoWriMo goals. To give you a little bit of motivation, we are doing a month-long giveaway.
You've heard us talk about the merchandise of Write Selfishly on a t-shirt and on mugs and that kind of thing.
Now on masks.
These will be what we're giving away at the end. We will do a drawing on our Facebook page.
So what you need to do to be entered into the giveaway is to like our Facebook page and then find one of us on NaNoWriMo website. We will include links to this on Facebook, on the landing page of this episode, and in the About Me section on our website.
And then every day that you hit your word goal, you'll be entered into this drawing for the end of the month.
Just send us a message on Nano saying, hey, I'm entering your giveaway, and we will keep an eye on the goals that you enter into the Nano website.
This is simply meant to be motivation to get you to be writing your book.
For me personally, Nano means a lot. I did the Camp July Nano, and that's what ended with me having a finished book. That's what ended with me having Toxic be able to release and publish. To help celebrate that, we are going to include copies of our books in this giveaway.
Our goal for this month is to give you kind of tricks of the trade, little things to keep in your arsenal when you're stuck. These little tricks will help you move your story forward. That is the purpose of this month. So the first thing we're talking about is writing right now. So Leigh, what is the biggest thing that holds you back from writing?
Perfectionism. When I hear the phrase writing right now, all I hear is writing right. I say I want it to be right the first time. I have to write it right the first time. And I don't track the right now part of it. Because when we say write it right now, we don't mean it has to be perfect right now. We mean just get it written right now.
When we are talking about your NaNoWriMo word count goals, we don't mean 1,667 perfect words. We mean 1,667 words that have been written. It's far more important to write it right now than to write it right.
Because there is no right way to write, especially on a first draft. Word vomit if you have to, just get it on the page. And that is the first trick of the trade. Just write something. You also want to avoid asking yourself certain questions while you are writing.
And I know this from experience. I built this list because I have asked myself these questions so many times, and every time it grinds my writing process to a halt.
Question number 1. Does this make sense?
You are not writing selfishly if you're asking yourself that question. You are thinking about your audience during your first draft. Does it make sense to you enough to when you can look back on it and polish it later?
Fix it in post.
Another question that I find grinds me to a halt is, what is the perfect word for this moment?
Throw in a filler word that you wouldn't use anywhere else in the story. Throw in brackets. Throw in an excessive amount of asterisks. Something that you remember that you can Control F, find, and change later so you aren't getting stuck on one word. Do not let one word derail your train.
Yeah, just keep moving and trust the editing process. If you have an idea of what happens next, write it. Don't let anything stand in your way.
Another question is a question of, is this redundant or is this just completely out of the blue? Is this continuous? I don't know if that's a real word, but I'm using it.
It's a filler word that we'll fix in post. All you're doing at that point is just chewing through your writing time. Time is especially precious during this month because you have a lot to do in very little time. If you are rereading anything else, you are not moving forward. Just physics, you can't be doing both at once. So, best guess, I think I spelled her name with 2 N's and not 1. We'll go with it and move on. The last question that I find myself stopping myself from writing is, have I spent enough time on this? Do I need to dwell in this moment a little bit longer? Or do I need to push forward, move past this, hurry up, instead of enjoying the moments as I write them? This is often, for me, a concern about word count, because I know my target word count for the book, and I want certain things to happen a third of the way in, 2/3 of the way in. When we're changing these acts, I need to get to this point by the time I hit 30,000 words.
This is one thing that I struggled with in July when I was writing Toxic. I got to the middle and realized I didn't have enough stuff in the middle. And I worried about that. I was like, do I need to add things? Do I need to add scenes? And then I don't remember what it was, but I finally realized if I need to add scenes, I will add it later. Let me just keep moving so I can get this written before midnight on July 31st.
For the record, if you know something is wrong, don't stop your thought process. Don't stop the pen. But if you know this is not the right word and I need to fix it later, I always circle it with my pen. That's what works for me.
I use Google Docs, so if I have a thing that I know I need to change, I'll just go and highlight it. So I found myself when I was writing Toxic, going through, hitting a spot where I realized, hey, this other thing needs to happen earlier for this scene to flow right. So I would do a quick search, find that scene that needs to change, highlight, comment saying this needs to happen, and then went immediately back to where I was to continue writing. And it was just enough for me to say, okay, when I hit this in editing, then I can say, all right, let's add this, let's fix this. But it didn't distract me for more than 5 seconds.
All you're doing is putting a Post-it down for yourself.
Exactly.
If you don't do this,
I would have forgotten a lot of what I needed to change.
So this concept of writing right now looks different for you plotters versus you pantsers out there.
As a pantser, it feels like there's a lot more pressure because we work so much on inspiration. We work so much with needing the muse to strike for us to work. So we sit down, we think we know where we're going, you stare at that page, and your mind just goes blank. I know this, I've been there. And I'm really sorry for all you pantsers out there. I'm going to suggest probably the worst thing that all of us have to come to grips with eventually. You have to work sometimes without inspiration. You have to write down ideas as they come. Whenever that is, whether you're writing or not. And this may look a lot like an outline, but trust me, it helps. Also, stop mid-sentence. If you just start reading that sentence, it can do a lot to help you find your flow again.
Plotters, you aren't safe from this either. If you're like me, you are interested in the story because you feel like the story needs to be told. You know where you're going with it. You know what's going to happen when. And so the joy of discovering the story, of responding to the characters, can be a little lost. So make sure you don't over-outline, especially for NaNoWriMo, because then you lose enthusiasm. Last year, I switched projects mid-nano because I had one that I was really enthusiastic for, but I didn't know where I was going with it. I'm like, let's go see what happens. And now the other one is published.
So, what are you waiting for? You're already on the 2nd day of November. Get to work. Start writing. What is stopping you from writing that next scene?
Make sure your family knows, hey, from 4 to 8 in the morning, Every morning, I'm going to be writing. Don't try to call me. Don't try to come in and ask for waffles. I will punt you out of the room if you try to interrupt me.
I am checked out for this time so I can reach my goal. If what's stopping you is you're not sure what's next, what is the next thing you know is going to happen? What needs to happen for that to occur? And what needs to happen for that to occur? Work your way backwards until you get to the point in your story where you're stuck. And then write. And if you have to, if you are sitting there staring at a blank page, skip whatever is holding you back, jump to the good parts, and get into it. Just get those words down.
I find that when I skip ahead, I'm skipping stuff that I would have edited out anyway. So I'm not wasting my time and wasting the reader's time and then going, well, the reader needs to know this. Skip ahead, integrate it where you need to, move on. Leaving question marks in your character's backstory, in the world, blank edges of the map. Things like this can be helpful in keeping your flow going, because if you don't know, the reader probably doesn't need to know right away. So it's okay to have question marks. Be thinking about those not during your writing time if you feel like they need to be fleshed out. But the most important thing is to always
write selfishly.
If you have a question or comment for our hosts or a topic you'd like us to cover, send us an email at writingroots@aspenhousepublishing.com or find us on Facebook by searching for Aspen House Publishing.